look at you, you're an Australian and you're making stuff in China. I said, you are the consumer, and would you pay 5 times the amount? They, no, that'd be a rip-off. Okay, you're the problem. You're not going to buy it. You draw one farting dog, and that's kind of what people see and think of. And the key to it is just having the energy to do these things, have the ideas and chase them through.
Okay, so let's scrap that.
Can we scrap that?
Things you're most excited about in 2025? What have you got coming up? Obviously, some things we're not allowed to talk about.
Yeah, some things we're not going to talk about.
Yeah. So you're the youngest person we've ever had on the sofa.
That's wonderful to hear.
It's quite an accomplishment.
Yeah, don't hear that often these days.
No. But you've been doing what you do for a long time.
I have.
Do you still have the same love for fashion, culture, branding, creativity?
I always said that, what are you going to do? And I go, I'll be okay. I'll die with my boots on, all that sort of stuff. Now that I'm in my 70s, I'm just going, Jesus, it's not as easy as I thought. It's just, and the key to it is just having the energy to do these things, have the ideas and chase them through. And energy is a really important part of it. And the passion, from the energy comes the passion. And that I would say that is my difficulty, is just maintaining the energy.
And is that an age thing, not a
I think it is just an age thing,
yeah.
Yes. You've been around a few times, and, you've seen things unfold and go up and down. And so it ceases to be quite the fascination that it was. I mean, I'm sure Rupert Murdoch is still probably different to me, but, he keeps marrying young women. So,
well, he's up to number 6 now, isn't he? It's a sport for him.
I'm not counting, but I'm sure he is.
Yeah, but then you look at Sir David Attenborough. He's pushing the ton now.
Yeah, he is. Yeah,
it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I know. Look, there's plenty of good examples. Just because I'm being dull doesn't mean there's lots of other people who are doing interesting things into their 70s and so forth.
So, just for the readers at home, today we're chatting to Mr. Dare Jennings, founder of Mambo and Deus, amongst other things. Are they your only 2 pet projects, or you got the music thing?
Please don't forget Phantom Records.
Yeah, Phantom Records. It's very easy to forget music these days.
Yeah, what is music?
Yeah.
It was a proper record store and record label. Yeah.
And still going?
Oh no, Phantom I think has wandered off. But it was born in the 70s into that wonderful era of music where records were imported and they were air freight. Something would be released in London and they'd be air freighted in, and literally within 24 hours we'd have them in our stores here. It was a really exciting time, and it was, punk, new wave, all that sort of stuff. And the records came from Los Angeles or London or other places too. But anyway, and plus we signed up our own bands. We put out the first record for the Sunny Boys. We put out the first record for the Hoodoo Gurus and a bunch of other ones. But we never signed them up in a proper record label way. We just put out there, did really good covers and pressed the records. And then they went off and signed up big deals after that.
So you were designing the covers?
Yeah, the music was fun, but doing the covers was terrific.
And then what year did you kick off Mambo?
So Mambo, I then went off, became more hardcore rag trade. I started a printing factory, and I was printing fabric and T-shirts, and that got to be a big, it got way too big. And then I just, so this was in the early 80s, and then it was in the era where Quicksilver, Billabong, Rip Curl were huge. I was a surfer. I didn't care for the way they were going about it. I had my own ideas. And so that's when we first started to, when Mambo was born, 1984.
And it was always meant to be establishment, so to speak?
Well, I was a product of Sydney University in the 70s, which was Vietnam War, Students for a Democratic Society. So it was a very left-wing, anti-authority sort of view. And probably that's why I didn't like the other brands, because they were very standard issue youth exploitation. And I just thought, we should do something that takes the piss a little more. And so in a way, we just became the idea we were just an alternative to that mainstream sort of way they were doing it. Mind you, those brands were not mainstream. They were still alternative in their own way, but we were an alternative to the alternative.
Yeah. And then to have that iconic cartoon dog, letting one rip, that's...
Yeah, I know.
Like if that's what we think of when we think of Mambo.
No, it's shameful. And because we did so many things, but you draw one farting dog, well, that's kind of what people see and think of, but it's kind of annoying because we did a ton of other stuff that was far more interesting, I think.
I remember our next door neighbour had a Mambo sofa.
Yeah, we printed fabric and it was all original art done by, and there was a wonderful group of artists who contributed to Mambo, and they and it was just at a time when the art colleges were churning out a lot of people. They had a good idea of art, and there was a lot of people to choose from. Probably less so now, but whatever.
Do you think the computers and everything have killed that off?
Yeah, in a way, yeah, because this was all pre-computers. Yeah. So it was learning how to paint, learning how to draw, and how to get your ideas across. Whereas now it's a lot easier. But so be it. It's just the way things evolve.
They do, but I guess, is it easier now to be in the rag trade than what it was then, or is there too much choice now? How do you see it?
In a way, I think one of the principal differences was, as I said, we all came out of the Vietnam War, where everyone was pretty politicized, and the anti-authority attitudes were really strong. And the music that came out of it, everything, it was a big generator of those sort of ideas. And in a way, even with the Middle East and all of that, it didn't generate that much in the same way that the Vietnam War did.
Yeah.
And then just the rag trade is, it's strange. I was talking to a kid the other day who, he's got his whole label, and he hasn't left Australia yet. He hasn't. Whereas to get it to work for us, we had to go to Hong Kong. We had to go find the factories. We had to work out what the connections were, and it was hard work, and especially for someone like me, this kind of farm boy wandering around trying to work out how the rag trade works. It was not easy, but now you can, like I said, you can go to Alibaba or one of those, and they'll do everything for you. Like it'll all arrive for you in a box.
Don't know if it'll be right.
Yeah, it'll be close enough to right. And yes, anyway. But and again, that's the trouble with getting old. You go, oh, well, that's how it was. But it's different now.
But it's I guess that. Can you still build a brand solely in Australia, or do you think you do need the Chinas and the offshore markets from a manufacturing point of view?
Yes, the manufacturing is gone.
Yeah,
like there's little bits, but and the bits that are here, you'd only do something very exclusive because they will be expensive, and that just is how it is. The manufacturing has closed down. I mean, there are, like I said, there are places, but they're rare. No. And if you want a competitive product, then you just have to go overseas, offshore.
And do you think customers care about provenance as much anymore?
No, it's kind of it's a pet peeve of mine is that people would go, look at you're an Australian and you're making stuff in China. And I say, you are the consumer, and would you pay whatever it was, 5 times the amount? They no, that'd be a rip-off. Okay, you're the problem because you're not going to buy it. if it was that expensive. And in the end, price just becomes, people like the righteous indignation of it, saying it should be made in Australia, but the fact is the business would never work.
And it obviously hasn't, because all the manufacturing has all but gone, as you said.
Yeah, it's all but gone, yeah. There used to be, when I first started, there were heavy tariffs, like 50% duty on garments brought into Australia. So it protected the local manufacturing. But there was a government decision to reduce the tariffs back to, I don't know what they are now, they're probably 20% at the most. But there were a lot of really bad factories here that were just hid behind the tariffs, so they weren't very good. So in the end, the tariffs are gone, the factory's gone, and so be it.
And what do you think has kind of made, obviously, it's hard to have lightning strike twice, but you've had two very, very successful fashion brands over the years. Do you think there was a formula or luck, or what do you put it down to?
I've been asked this question, and I think it's just, I've always just stuck to what I believe in. You know, I have never done any market research. I've never used a media company, sorry, all due respect to media companies.
None taken.
Or PR companies or anything like that. It was always, we knew what we were doing, and I surrounded myself with people who loved doing it. But it was also, if I had a couple of basic tricks, it was to build a platform, a cultural platform. Mambo was artwork and surfing and other things, and so there was a platform, and the apparel came out of that. So when people thought about it, they thought about the cultural position, and then in the end, the business was apparel. And then with Deus was the same thing. I always loved motorbikes. I'd always had them when I was a kid. And I'd been to Japan a lot, and I'd seen young Japanese guys building these kind of retro motorbikes and all this great fashion, and that was an inspiration for that. But at the same time, I was brought up when I was in the 60s and 70s, if you surfed, you had a motorbike, because they were just both cool. Like it wasn't like you needed it to get to the beach. It was just racing motorbikes. And we had a hero from Newcastle called Herbie Jefferson. He was older than us, but he was a speedway champion and a big wave surfer, and that was the coolest guy ever. And for him, it was just, he didn't care. It was just whatever was cool and dangerous.
Did Herbie get all the girls?
He probably did, but like I said, he was older.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I can't answer that. Maybe.
Well, that's usually the poster boy of that cool culture. But that's true. You're creating these cultural brands. That takes time.
Yeah.
Like, it's not as if you can just go, okay, well, we've created a movement here and away you go.
But in my creating cultural brands, I was only referring to the culture that I knew.
Yeah.
If I was just some rag trade guy, I go, I'll just make them about motorbikes. I don't know anything about motorbikes, but just put, it wasn't like that at all. It was, I only dealt with stuff that I knew and cared about.
The strange thing is, I was in Bali a couple of weeks ago, and I actually think there's more Deus T-shirts than Bintang T-shirts now.
Yeah, well, that's a good thing and a bad thing.
They're everywhere.
Yeah. Well, we do that. The retail that we have in Bali does very well.
Yeah.
But again, that was... that place you saw in Canggu was just a rice field, and we wanted to make surfboards, we wanted to build motorbikes, we wanted to do all that. So we had space and we did it. And now that whole urban sprawl has caught up with it. But yeah, that's
great pasta joint next door to your place, Luigi's.
Yeah, well, they're Sydney guys. That's all.
Is it? Yeah.
They're all the what's it called? The icebergs.
Guys. Are they? Is that Morris Tazine crew?
Yeah.
Yep. They do make a great vodka pasta.
They do.
Yeah. Can recommend.
And they do make a lot of money, but, you know.
Well, that's why we're here, isn't it? Yeah. I think if I'd wanted to make money, I wouldn't have gone into media. I would have opened a few 7-Elevens.
Oh, enough of you complaining.
So in terms of, just to jump back a tiny bit, like the Mambo thing, did that kind of fade to grey, or was that an exit, or what happened there?
Okay, well, that was 1984 was when it started, and it was sort of instant. We were printing fabric and making shorts, and that was like every rag trade endeavor needs a hit product to drag you along, and everything else can follow it, but you need the hit product. And that was the instant hit product, because we were using local artists to do artwork, and we were hand printing the fabric. And my friend who owned General Pants, we just said, send me as many as you can, because they just sell straight away. So but then it all sort of grew up after that, and then it went overseas. People came from, you know, lots of other countries, and we ended up, you know, being all over Europe and Japan and what have you. So, and the US, but that all happened in a way. It was its own sort of momentum. But because we were unique, distinctly Australian, and I think that's probably one of the things I'm proud about, is that Mambo managed to be uniquely Australian without putting up pictures of harbour bridges and kangaroos on there. If there were, we were making a joke about something. But people sensed that there was a intrinsically Australian attitude there, and I think that's important.
And then when did it finish?
Well, I sort of had enough by 2000, and we did the uniforms for the Sydney Olympics, and then a public company wanted to buy it, so they did, and I had to stick around for a bit, and then I was kind of restless, so wanted to do something. But that was 16 years, I guess. So.
Yeah, but then when you get acquired, you do lose. Like it's like Gotcha in the US. You do lose it.
Always. As soon as other people are involved, they all have their own ideas about, and especially for me, I still look like a farm boy, and they go, we're professional rag trade people. Well done. We'll make it amazing, and usually they don't.
They don't, and it's. Well, that said, the loud shirts are fetching a pretty penny on eBay.
Well, that is wonderful, and it's particularly irritating for me, because I had a big box of them that I kept, all the most obscure ones.
I was going to ask you if you still had a few.
I don't know what happened to the box.
Yeah.
It's gone. So I'd rather not talk about how much loud shirts are getting. But that was all wonderful. Using original artists, and that all came because I'd go to Hawaii and I'd see Hawaiian shirts that had beautiful pictures of Hawaiian culture on there, and I said, we'll do the same. I'll just get artists that I know to do kind of odd images, and we had them. They were printed in Solo in Indonesia, and they were enormously popular.
Yeah.
But in the end, they became a cliche.
But I look at them now and I think, it's the type of shirt that, like that DJ Fisher, who everybody loves, is something he would wear on stage. Like they're pretty cool. Yeah,
but I have a son who's 22 now, but when he was about 19, he was a bit self-conscious about it. But I can't remember, one of the DJs came and he'd gone and he'd found a loud shirt in a second hand, and he was wearing it around. Yeah, my son was very conflicted.
Doesn't he think Dad's cool?
Well, he does now, but at the time, like all teenage boys, they get self-conscious about pretty much everything.
Yeah, that's different. And then I guess the segue is into like the printed T-shirts. Like a print on the front of a T-shirt still works to this day, and Deus as a business, if I think of Deus, I think of all the different designs you've got. If you look at the Noosa store, I walk past and you've got them all up on the wall there. Yeah. Why do printed T-shirts still work?
Because in the end, they just become a statement about who you are. It's a little ad for you. So, whatever. And it was, I mean, it's hard to imagine, but there was a time when there weren't many printed T-shirts around. And that was, my oft-told story is I was hitchhiking and a guy had a Mack truck T-shirt. And I went, dude, that's the coolest T-shirt. Where do you get them? And he said, the distributor. But I don't think he's got any left. And so that was my little, I got to make some. Like, how hard could that be? So.
And but the Deus project was custom motorbikes only first, was it not?
It was beginning with motorcycles.
Yeah.
But the inspiration for it came from Tokyo.
Okay.
And these guys they were fashion people. There was, there was a lot more going on than just the motorbikes. And in a way, same as I was with surfing, I found that the motorcycle industry was pretty daggy. It was kind of they didn't have a very good fashion sense or none of the things that sort of drove me to want to, I love motorbikes, but I want to be cool at the same time. And motorcycling didn't particularly have that.
No. Do you remember, I used to see how Chad Reed, Aussie motocross guy, used to wear what he used to wear back in the day, suits with massive collars and things.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
Yeah, it was it was definitely not.
I don't think he was being ironic.
No, he definitely wasn't, oversized hats. But whereas the Japanese have always done cool, probably better than most.
They have, and that's really what I was seeing. And, that was the work, and workwear became American style workwear became a big fashion statement, and the Japanese were very big on that as well. So that was where it came from.
And in terms of markets around the world, where does Deus go next? Because it feels to me it's very much a worldwide brand.
Yeah, it's very I've got to go there, but in Sao Paulo in Brazil, these great guys, they've got a big mansion house and it's 3 levels and there's a restaurant there, but they build motorbikes and they came to see us and asked us to do it, and they've done it really well. So that was fantastic. But Europe, Italy, it just depends if they're good people who want to do it and we know we can trust to do it properly.
And does it need to be a surf break or can it be a motorbike spot? It doesn't really matter?
It doesn't matter. And I've been quite specific about this. It can be, there's a bunch of elements of there's a cultural smorgasbord there, and you can take different elements of that and make what you will of it. But it's just people who care about what they're doing. That's the main thing.
But how do you kind of triage those people that come to you and say, hey, we want a Deus store in Sao Paulo?
We've made a couple of mistakes, but by and large, it's not too bad. Yeah, but Sao Paulo, for example, is how that worked out. Well, I'd like to think we met them and we knew they were decent people. So I don't know. How do you try these things?
And on that, how do you mitigate risk when you have a business like yours?
Well, you got to rely on your instincts, which so long as you're 80% of the time you're right, that's not too bad.
Okay, and you're quick to move on.
Yes, we mistakes, we've made a few, but then again, too few to mention.
Do you kind of look back on some of the mistakes or some of the failures, or do you think you've been lucky not to have too many of them?
Well, lucky to not have too many of them, and there are always lessons in that. When I sold Mambo, it was sold to a public company, and the thing I was just disliked was if you made a mistake, you would be drawn and quartered for it. Whereas, in our world, you make a mistake, you get on. You get on with it. It was a mistake. Learn from it and keep going.
Do you think people romanticize the idea of selling the business one day? Or
do you mean
the whole idea of an exit? Having a public company come and buy a business off.
Yeah. I mean, the exit is look, you can keep something forever until it'll be on your funeral, on your casket at your funeral. But but I think, well, for people like me, you just got to move on, I think.
Yeah. And find the next project.
You need to be, you needed stuff to stimulate you and keep going. And Mambo in particular, it had become a cliche, the farting dog. And I was like, I've got to move past that.
Who was the artist who was responsible for the farting dog?
It's a guy called Richard Allen. He's still around.
Is he?
Yeah. He probably hate me for mentioning it, but anyway.
But that's all right. That's the one thing everyone remembers.
Yeah, but not for Richard. He would rather people didn't remember that. But anyway.
It's all right. We'll reach out to Richard for comment later.
Yeah, you can.
So Dare said this about you.
Yeah.
So, and then we took, I guess, ideas, projects. How do they kind of percolate with you? Are you kind of passing them off to a team member? Are you kind of going after them yourself?
These days with Deus, much more. My business partner is Carby Tuckwell, who was not part of Mambo, but he's been part of this. And Carby is really clever, creative, and now it's really he's controlling the creative.
Let's talk about Breitling.
Yeah, Breitling.
Have you got George Kern on speed dial?
No, we don't.
No.
But that was another good example of a great collaboration where it was good for us and good for them. Like we both had something to offer the project. And it was good for us because it's a luxury, very well-respected luxury brand. It's good for them because they were trying to be more authentic and real. So,
yeah, because they were heavily involved in Wheels and Waves.
Yeah, they were. Yeah. They did that. And they sponsored a bunch of surfers and a lot of different people. Yeah. And it was a conscious thing because Breitling had always been like, oh, I'm a pilot, I have a Breitling watch. And they needed to widen that market, so which they did.
Your take on making ideas a reality? A lot of people just kind of wheel spin and never do anything.
I know. It's to have some courage, really. I'm really proud about Deus because I said, oh, you've sold Mambo. What are you going to do now? I'm going to make a brand that's going to have motorbikes and surfing. And people, you're crazy. That's never going to work. You can't do it. And, knuckling down and making it work has been... And now people go, oh, of course you do that. That's obvious. But anyway, so it's a good example of if you've got an idea, you've got to back yourself and try to keep the idea pure. I think that's, without being too pretentious, it's just stick to the idea and everyone will tell you. My sister was a writer and she said there was the expression, there's always death and taxes. She said, in reality, there's death and taxes and the need for people to fuck around with your idea. That's the reality. And that never a truer word has been spoken. Because as soon as you've got, if you have an idea, everyone will tell you it's bullshit until it works, and then they'll all gather around and poke it with a stick and say, well, it was really actually my idea, but, whatever. So
Speaking from experience,
it's the nature of ideas, yeah. Everyone, once it works, it's everybody's idea, yeah.
Do you find you get the best ideas at home or when you're traveling?
Oh, definitely traveling, And the sort of sad thing about me now is I don't travel much. It kind of wore me out, but for a time I was traveling continually.
Economy, or you're at the front of the plane?
Well, it depends what stage the business was at.
So what stage of a business are you actually allowed to fly business class?
When you can pay for it, that's it.
Okay, fair enough.
It was my business. So, when it's not too indulgent. Yeah. And the minute you start flying business class, well, you have to keep flying business class.
That is a problem.
It's an addiction.
Yeah. Have you ever been on a cruise? You don't seem like the cruise type of guy.
A cruise?
Yeah.
Boat cruise?
Yeah.
No, I haven't done that.
No, you don't seem the type.
No, I haven't. Well, thank you. I'm glad that comes out in my narrative.
Oh, some people are really into them, but I feel it wouldn't be your thing.
I couldn't imagine anything worse. But anyway, there we go.
And then what bike did you roll up at? Or you were going to ride here today, And we had the red carpet out for you and everything.
I was going to ride my bicycle here, but I still ride it. I have a really good specialised electric mountain bike.
Isn't that cheating?
No, it's, you know what, as long as you're doing it, you know, it doesn't matter. And, you know, I'm at my age, I need that exercise. And the electric assist is fantastic.
Yeah.
I've always used to ride normal, you know, I haven't had a fixed wheel fixie at one stage, which is the dumbest thing I've ever done.
Did it have brakes? Mine doesn't have brakes.
Okay. I always had a front brake, which is helpful, but it's the worst accident I ever had was when I put the front brake and went straight over the handlebars. But anyway, so I've got a BMW GS,
nice
1300, which is, it's big, the brakes work, and it's visible, so which is nice.
What do you ride in Bali when you're there?
I've gone back to riding a scooter.
Really?
Yeah.
You're on a scoopy.
We've got bikes there, but
you just prefer a 49cc scoopy to get around in.
Just the least trouble. That's is the idea.
So, are you still making bikes?
Yeah. We have a very active
down in
Camperdown. We have a very active Jeremy Tagan. There's a French guy who's worked there for a long time.
I want to get a scrambler.
A scrambler.
Yeah.
Okay, then you should. The SR was the road model, and there was an XT 500.
Yep. And
that's what I also want, because I had one when I was 28, which is in 1978. So, and there's still, my knee is still good, so I can still kick it over.
Yeah. So is that what you would, if you were going to make a custom scrambler, you'd do it off the XT?
I would just get a completely stock XT, because I think they were the most beautiful bikes.
Yeah.
They're just really elegant, and they don't need to. I'd probably put a different muffler on it.
I was about to say, are they 2-stroke or 4-stroke?
They're 4-stroke.
Okay.
They're kickstart, overhead cams. But they were, very simple motorbikes, but they were great.
Lovely. Maybe two last ones. When you touched on this as you earlier on, getting older.
Yeah.
What's the biggest fallacy, or what's the best advice on getting older?
There's just an inevitability to it. And it's sort of strange because, I read or watch movies and all the sort of dramatization of getting old. It's never figured it out, and suddenly you are, and you're going, shit, what's it supposed to be like this? Anyway, it's okay. I'll stop grumbling about it.
But as you said, it's inevitable.
It's inevitable.
Just suck it up.
You're not getting out of it.
Yeah. Lovely. And then things you're most excited about in 2025? What do you got coming up? Obviously, some things we're not allowed to talk about.
Yeah, some things we're not going to talk about.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like I said, I really want to go to Sao Paulo, and I want to see these guys in Brazil. That's exciting.
You can fly straight into Santiago. Over to Sao.
Yeah.
Qantas does that now.
They do, and Chile is fantastic. We have a guy working there, but there's not a big day. So that's what I want to do. I want to go to Sao Paulo.
And then with the rest of your year, because that's probably only a couple of weeks there, or are you just going to park yourself there for 3 months?
I don't know. I'll find some things to do. In a way, what the strange thing about COVID was, I'd always said I'd never retire. And COVID in Sydney, at least, was like being retired, because everything stopped. You cooking at home and what have you. And it wasn't so bad. It wasn't nearly as horrendous as I thought it would be. So anyway.
You got the taste of it, did you?
Yeah. I lost my fear of it, I think, which is probably more to the point.
Yeah. But, isn't the old adage that when you stop, that's when you get older and you...
Yeah. Well, but, I still think you've got to keep your brain working, which I do. And I'm lucky even though I'm sort of retired, in a way, I can still go to Camperdown and see what the young ones are up to.
That's good.
And, it's quite nice. They seem to quite like my amusing anecdotes. Their eyes don't glaze over.
I think they don't scatter like rats when you walk into the building.
You already told us that. Okay, it's okay. Yeah.
No, you're allowed. You're actually allowed to tell stories multiple times.
I know.
Yeah, for every decade, you can tell it one more time.
One more time.
Yeah, exactly. Dare Jennings, thank you very much for joining DMARGE on the sofa, the casting couch.
Thank you, Luke. Thank you for
I don't
having
think
me.
we're allowed to call it that, but yeah. Thanks anyway.
Yeah, okay. It seems quite clean.